Hello, everybody, and welcome back to part 2 of this podcast we're doing. My name is HSR.
I am your lady friend, Bonnie.
And at the end of the last podcast, you saw that we never finished it, and we said part 2 was coming. So,
Yep.
Bonnie, why don't you tell the people who we are talking about today?
Well, I think we're talking about a little fellow by the name of Kendrick Lamar.
And this is just part 2 of our To Pimp A Butterfly review.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, if you missed that, and you should probably click over there wherever the fuck it appeared and just check back to part 1 and watch that part and or watch this first, whatever. Just
you do you, man.
We're gonna go through this track by track and we're gonna talk about each song. And as far as we're concerned, we just finished part 1 like a whole of 15 minutes ago. So we just thought it would be smarter to split this into 2 videos instead of making one giant one, given how much we recorded versus how far we were in the album. Anyway, what song are we about to go ahead and talk about?
Momma!
Let's check it out.
Isn't it lovely how menaces turn attraction, pivoting rappers finish a fraction while
Bonnie, how do you feel about this track?
I mean, it's an interesting song. So his mom knows pretty much, the answer, or, mother knows best, kind of. And you're going back to the motherland, which I think in his sense is Africa. And nobody listened to him until he put, until he put his emotions about a certain issue on a rap beat. And he's kind of talking about his roots and where he's from, and his music obviously brings him back to his roots. It's part of what inspires him. He knows a lot. He pays attention. He's smart. He knows kind of the rich people and the poor people, so he knows kind of both sides of the tracks, I guess. And God rewards him with his with his efforts and with his courage and everything. He obviously is successful, and he thanks God for this. Which also makes me think that we've heard similar message on Good Kid, Mad City. Where his mom is asking him to come home, and then she hides a key. It's a voicemail that she's kind of missing him, and wants him to come back, and he obviously, his mom supports him and loves him and cares about him. But I think it's so I mean that's just what it made me think of. But I think it's also another reference again to a bigger mother, like Mother Nature, to the motherland, to something bigger that's pulling him. And even Mother Mary, I'm not really sure which mother in the sense is being talked about. But obviously a mother is somebody that comforts you and makes you feel safe and relaxed, and when you're in their presence or in their arms. And then at the end of the song we have some kind of clips of the song I featured in it, and he's kind of confessing as well at the end of the song in a way that sounds kind of positive, but it isn't at the end of the song. So it's really great, amazing composition and mixing on this song. Interesting thoughts. Again, we have issues concerning his identity and the identity of Black people trying to fit in to this world. So I gave this a 4.75. It's a solid song.
Cool. So I kind of took it a little bit like this. And again, this one was a little bit harder for me to wrap my head around, partly because I think this might be the one I find the most boring on the album. Now, I respect and admire how good of a song this is because I have listened to it quite a few times, but I'm talking about just relative to this album, this is my least favorite song. But I feel he's kind of, the first verse is about his love of rap music and his approach to it, right? Mm-hmm. This feeling is unmatched. This feeling is brought to you by adrenaline and good raps. Black Pendleton, ball cap, we don't share the same syndrome, fall back, And I feel he's trying to contextualize that what he feels is a good rap is maybe a little bit different than how other people may perceive it. He lets us know that he's been at this game before the internet made things fashionable and cool. Kendrick and I are born in the same year. I think he's about 6 months older than me. So I get where he's coming from. Back in the day, like, things weren't as they were today, and what made people be flashy and cool is a little bit different. So mimicking radio's nemesis made me whack. My innocence limited, the experience lacked. 10 of us with no tentative tactic that cracked. So you get the sense maybe that this fad or trendy type shit maybe didn't go for it correctly. And again, if I'm wrong here on this one, feel free to like let me know what the correct understanding of the song is, because I really do want to know. You admitted it once. I submitted it wrapped in plastics. Remember scribbling, scratching, diligent sentences backwards, visiting freestyle ciphers for your reaction. Now I can live in a stadium, pack it the fastest. So we're seeing how his dedication to his lyrics and his rap has kind of started to pay dividends in his life towards other situations, you know. Kendrick is the master that mastered it. I'm kind of jumping ahead a bit. Isn't it lovely? I'm menace turned attraction. Pivoting rappers, finish your fraction while writing Blue Magic. Thank God for rap. I would say it got me unplugged, but what's better than that? The fact that it brought me home. So, I mean, he's kind of pinning out this whole world and this universe of his skills, but ultimately, through rap, he was able to find his way home to get him. And I don't know if this is. I think this is meant to be both literally. His whole rap adventure brought him back to Compton, but I also think it's like home, as in inside of his mind.
Maybe it like reconnected him with his mom.
But I think it's more with like his soul found himself again, and he's like kind of using Momma a little bit as like all that good wisdom Momma told me when I was a kid about what home was and about what being proper is. I was able to like rediscover that. But then we go and we take the you know, everything, the chorus has the waiting for you kind of repeated, where it's almost like his city, his home, people are waiting for him to like come back and follow up with all the, you know, after all the adventuring. And then I love the second verse. So this is like the most self-aware, like, this made me call myself a bit of a pretentious asshole reading this verse, right? So he's like, I know everything. I know everything. I know myself. I know mortality, spiritually, good and bad health. I know fatality, my honcho. I know everything. I know Compton. I know street shit. And he knows fucking everything, from history to mentality to the highs and lows, the groupies and junkies, whatever. And he lays down virtually every angle of life you could know about if you were going to call yourself like a well-rounded, self-aware type person. And I can relate to that. I try to educate myself. And Kendrick is clearly a well-read, educated guy who has gone out of his way to know stuff. And I think that's kind of part of his rap strategy in the first verse, is that he's so intelligent and he's so well-rounded that he knows all of these things, right? And that's part of what people love him. It's something that we've seen already described on this album. And, you know, and then this song really, this verse really comes together. I know what I know, and I know it will not to ever forget until I realized I didn't know shit the day I came home. And again, that's something I can relate to and understand, where when you find that grounding inside of yourself, when you go back home, whether it's literally or metaphorically, you realize that all these things you've learned, maybe they're useful, maybe they're truth even, but the perception and the context and the main basis of your foundation of when you go back home, who you really are, is always going to be the truest thing to you. And I think that Kendrick's trying to let us know that in light of everything he's learned, it didn't supersede or even educate him the way that his youth or what the main lessons of going home would have taught him, you know? Then he goes, and then maybe I'm wrong, but then we have this third verse where I think we're doing into literally he's gone back home and he's met a little boy that looks like him. You know, he's just kind of like, he's ran into like little Kendrick. He's dressed the same way. He kind of takes out people who crossed him a certain way, has the same kind of attitude. He's breaking certain laws. He's, you know, tossing a football around. You know, he's like, then the kid looks at him and goes, Kendrick, you do know my language. You just forgot because of what public schools had painted. Oh, I forgot. Don't kill my vibe. That's right. You're famous. I used to watch on Channel 5. TV was taken. And that's such a powerful line, right? So he's kind of letting Kendrick know, you know somewhere inside of you, this certain language of where I come from exists, right? You know this, but you kind of lost touch with your roots, maybe your reality of who you are. But oh, bitch, don't kill my vibe, right? You don't want me to do that. You're famous. You don't actually care about what's going on here. That's the type of person you are. See, I used to watch you on the TV, but like my TV got stolen. What you know about that, K. Dot? And you just feel like that, like kind of challenging of who he is, you know. But never mind, you're right here, right now. Don't you mistake it. It's just a new trip. Take a glimpse of your family's ancestor. You know, make a new list of everything you thought was progress, and that was bullshit. I mean, your life is full of turmoil, spoiled by fantasies of who you are. I feel bad for you. I can attempt to enlighten you without frightening you. If you resist, I'll call off quick, go catch a flight or two. But if you pick destiny over rest in peace, then be an advocate. Tell your homies especially to come back home. And I think this is now kind of addressing these rap stars, these people who do make it from the thing. So Kendrick left home, got famous, had his adventures, lived life, and then he comes back and he meets this kid who could have just been him. And all this kid wants to tell him is like, you know, when you do get there, the most powerful thing you can do for us, if you really want to make a difference, is to tell your people to come back home, invest in these communities, use your influence and power for something fucking good. And if you really want to make a difference, Mr. K. Mr. No longer connected with it, you're not ready, no more good kid mad cities. Write something that fucking matters. Write something that tells and encourages people to come back home and to do things right.
Like this entire album.
Yeah, he's not a hypocrite. And then after that, we get that this is a world premiere, which I formerly knew was on and we'll get there. But then it just turns into this crazy jazzed up, upbeat, fucking excited thing. Like, I've been looking for you my whole life, an appetite for the feeling I can barely describe. Where you reside, is it in a woman, is it in money or mankind? Tell me something, got me losing my mind. You make me want to jump. And then we find out that this crazy thing Kendrick's been looking for, this emotion, this thing that's going to save him, is just love. And that's what he's been looking for. And, you know, and then I found you, he thought he found this emotion, this happiness back in the day, and describes the paranoid environment of where he comes from. But he feels like, I don't know, I like, he's like, maybe you're in a dollar, maybe you're not real, maybe only the wealthy get to know how you feel, maybe I'm paranoid, maybe I don't need you anyway, don't lie to me, I'm suicidal anyway, I can be your advocate, I can preach for you if you tell me what the matter is. And then, you know, I feel like he's still kind of in disbelief that love exists or is a real thing, but he's still searching for it, but he knows what he's looking for now, and he understands what he's looking for. And then at the end of the day, his consolation prize is if he can't have it because it can't be for his people, at the very least, he can fight for it and be that advocate. Now this is like really fading out. Like, you would not really pick up part of this end message because of that, but yeah. And that's just kind of where this song ends. And it's another fucking powerful experience of enlightenment and shit. But I don't know. I don't know. It just felt a little flatter sonically. Like it kind of reminded me of like Fear off of Damn, how that's like a flat, somberer kind of tone, whereas everything else kind of felt more alive and dynamic compared to this one. So I'm giving it a 4.5 on 5. But don't worry. There's still some hood politics to discuss.
Oh, yes.
Time to bubble up the bread and huddle up. Stick it to the spritz, now if them Benjamins go cuddle up. Skip.
So Yogi Bear had a little bear that hung around with him named Boo Boo.
Named Boo Boo.
All right, Bonnie, how do you feel about this song?
Boo Boo.
How do you feel about it?
Kendrick keeps going Boo Boo on this one, and it's like, whether or not you like it, it's hard to resist the Boo Boo. Like, you just want to listen to it.
Yes.
So maybe I'm immature. I don't know. So K. used to be like his stage name, or like, you know, his name that his friends used to call him, I guess. But now he kind of feels like he doesn't need one. He doesn't need that stage name. He can just be himself. He can be Kendrick Lamar. And, you know, that's what he is. That's who he is. And, you know, we're listening to like a message from a friend of his. And boo boo equals, I think is like a slang term, in the hood apparently for shit. So it's just like all this stuff is like shit. It's just like happening, you know, that's going on. So there's obviously a lot of shit going down in the hood. And Kendrick was in the White House with Obama. He talks about that. So that's pretty cool. And people judge rap on how like it used to be better, but he's kind of calling kind of bullshit on that. You know, and saying that, you know, like all these people who are like the OG rappers, like they would have made more money if you guys had actually supported them and like cared about their music when they were like trying to like make it. And I think that that's kind of like what he's judging everybody that's saying, you know, that he's not like as good as these guys, but they're clearly lying because he's making more money than them. And, you know, he talks about being as powerful as Snoop. And that they could kind of start a war, but they don't, because I think that, they're on different, sides of the city or whatever, gangs. And again, he talks about the survival of survival guilt, like having to surviving the hood and like making it out and like having like the success and like you feel so guilty for it, and then that's how like Lucy can come after you. So you always have to keep an eye out for the devil because she's everywhere. It's just a constant struggle. So this is a great song, and like just talking about like how there's a real struggle in the hood, and some of his some of like the stupid rules that are created are just like nonsense, and like the way people treat each other and like the rules that people follow, and like not necessarily just like in the class, but in sense of like circumstances and gangs and like who's affiliated with who, and like it's just like such stupid arbitrary rules that people follow. And so I gave it a 4.75.
Cool. So I think this one is kind of like a response to institutionalized, right? So maybe in that one, we kind of showed his internal struggle with the fact that he comes from the hood. So this life is always trying to suck us back in. And then I think that's what that like phone call is. Like, hey, kid, I pick up the phone. Every time I call, it's going to voicemail. Don't tell me I got you on some weirdo rap shit, but ha ha ha. Mm-hmm. Call me on Shaniqua's phone, whatever. Like, and that's some like bogus crap. Like, why don't you have your own phone? Like, why are you calling on that person? But also, why are you, like, belittling what he's doing? Like, what, you think he's just going to have sold out and jump on some fashion trend that was popping or whatever? Yeah. Kind of almost whatever. And then, in response to that, Kendrick's like, he's been A1 since day one. You folks are shit, if that's what boo-boo is. And, and at the same way, it's also like what Yogi Bear, the commander, would say to Boo Boo, the little minion, like you guys are just Boo Boo, you're little, it's like a good double entendre.
Yep.
You homeboy, your block that you're from, shit. Little hoes that you went to school with, shit. Baby mama and your new bitch, shit. We was in the hood, 14 with the deuce, so back in the day, we were 14 with guns and shit.
Yep.
14 years later, going hard like we used to on the dead homies, And it's like, it's just kind of like commenting a little bit like, that's how he feels. I feel like he's saying there that you guys are still doing this, but like you're not even thinking about the dead homies. You're not even considering the consequences of these actions. And, like it's just kind of this. And then he just goes in to describe his feelings about stuff. So I don't give a fuck about no politics and rap. My little homie Stunna Deuce ain't never coming back. You ain't better go hard every time you jump on wax. Fuck that. They're talking about your shit is where it's at. Came in the game, you stuck your fangs in this game, you wore no chains in this game, your hood, your name is the game, now you double up, time to bubble up the bread and huddle up, sticking to the script, now here if the Benjamins go cuddle up. And you just kind of like get the sense that he don't care about the drama, right? So there's a whole bunch of drama. I mean, if you look at especially what Twitter and Instagram have done to hip-hop beefs and stuff, so there's all sorts of shit going on, ways you're supposed to be, etc. But Kendrick's kind of instead going, well, my dude got taken out and he's dead. So instead, I'm going to use that as motivation to talk about some real shit whenever I can. Use these raps properly, He came in and he attacked the game with some different type of shit. He didn't wear chains. He didn't come in, do some fucking fancy stuff. He just came in and did himself, and he was proper. And as a result, this turned into some money and stuff because he wasn't involved in the fucking politics, And then it goes Sherm sticks, burn this. That's what the products smell like when the chemicals mints. 50. Salute out to Compton Zoo with the extras. A bunch of folk. They fuck with you. Asians, they fuck with you. Nobody can fuck with you. Basically, everybody fucks with Kendrick now. That's, I think, what the end is saying there.
Yep.
So his shit is so fucking ridiculous, And that's because, ever since the beginning it's been real. It goes back into the hook, lays it down like that. Verse 2, it's like he hopped up the cat, he just got his dick sucked, so that's where his life's at. This crazy great stuff's happening. He's got the caddy, got the girl, blah blah blah.
Yep, he's living it up.
He's getting like phone calls saying, yo, the enemies have clicked up, and then like, yo, we got to go ahead and do stuff. And then he kind of goes, oh yeah, tell them we can run it for the cardio. Everything is everything. It's kind of a slow motion for the ambulance, the project filled with cameras. So now it's kind of like, we gotta go get revenge and make a whole spectacle out of it, and etc. The LAPD gambling, scrambling, football numbers slandering, named on papers, everybody snitching, and he's just kind of pointing out that this whole like ridiculous theatrical endeavor that they're engaging in, their violence, etc. It's not really useful to to anybody. It's nothing new. And then there's a fluid demo Crips and Republicans, which is fucking funny because it's taking like the red and the blue and just showing how polarizing it is. But if you look at the bi-party system as really just one-sided thing that is flipping around, it's also kind of commenting on how at the end of the day everybody's really the same, etc.
Yep.
Make it promise to fuck with you, no condom, they fuck with you. So people are just getting taken out by a system of political leaders. And then this one was interesting. Obama say what it do. And it just kind of repeats. And I think what he's trying to point out is at the end of the day, Obama is still a politician. He's still a fucking person running office. He still does all the things the other presidents do. And proof to the pudding is he sounds so kind of phony when he goes, Obama say what it do. And why I say he sounds phony is because of that whole third verse, where everybody want to talk about who this and who that, who the realist and who whack, who white or who black. Critic want to mention that they miss hip-hop or was rapping, motherfucker. If he did, then Killer Mike be platinum. So he kind of goes on in this voice, I think, to say that people want a whole lot of things. And at the end, I'll justify my what it do sentence. But like here, it's like, it's one of my favorite lines on this album. So everybody's like trying to talk about, oh, I want the 90s. Like we made a fucking little video about why certain rappers don't chart well. Because the fact of the matter is everybody wants lyrical hip hop. We've covered a whole bunch of lyrical guys lately. Like new rappers just dropped albums. They're not fucking charting or getting sales because people want that. But then one of the best things is, motherfucker, if you did, then Killer Mike be platinum. Because apparently Killer Mike went head-to-heads with Kendrick at the Grammys on all the award shows. But Kendrick was #1 on the charts, and Killer Mike was barely there. I listened to that album he did with Reagan on it. That shit's political, it's bars, it's lyrical, it's everything that everybody claims they want. Run the Jewels is fucking fire. I'm like, honestly, where is the love for that at? Like, the idea is you can't say that this music doesn't exist. Everything you're looking for is out there if you would just fucking Google beyond what's on Billboard. Like, if you think Billboard plays everything, it's like a little limiting. This is why I don't listen to radio. I don't know what's on radio. I go out there and I try to find music, you know? Anyway, and then, he puts out that people's priorities is fucked up. Everybody's interested in a certain type of culture. And then, no one asked me about my bitch, don't ask me about my bugs, unless you ask me about my power. Yeah, I got a lot of it. I'm the only next to Snoop that can push the button. I can't find the line, but I feel like there was some part where he's kind of like, you kind of sound like the police with all the questions you're asking and shit like that, and trying to impress me. It just kind of sounds fake. So I feel like when he looks at Obama going, what it do, it's like him trying to be this cool hip black guy instead of just being authentic or whatever, and it bothers him. It's like, there's your proof that he's still just like a politician. He's not really one of us, even if he's black. I don't know. And then you got the it kind of ends, and then you got your poem again, and he really kind of goes into the poem a little bit longer, from that point where he went home looking for answers, but that didn't stop survivor's guilt, going back and forth, trying to convince myself the stripes I earned, or maybe how A1 my foundation was, while my loved ones were fighting a continuous war back in the city, I was entering a new one. So here he's trying to like point out that this new environment in his life, he has this guilt, as Bonnie had brought up, of just trying to like, I made it, and I feel bad that I made it and internalized it. But finally, he's kind of coming to terms with that, and he recognizes that his brothers back home are still dealing with that environment, but this kind of leads him into this new conflict and these new problems that are now facing in his life. And it just, again, as it's been doing with these poems throughout the whole album, it blends perfectly into the next song. But before we get there, I did give it a 4.75. It's fucking great. It's not flawless to me. I do like some of the earlier ones better, but it's a 4.75. And that brings us to how much a dollar cost.
Money just forced pipe, I couldn't see it. He said, my son, temptation is one thing that I've done.
So this one was apparently based off of an experience he had in South Africa with somebody asking for $1 off of him.
Yeah.
I mean, given the story that he tells, I believe it's inspired by true events up until a point, and then imagination kicks in.
Yeah.
So we can go over the tale, but keep in mind, the poem has set us up now that Kendrick is about to be embracing a different type of war than, say, he's used to based on his past. So something like the value of a real dollar. And so it starts off, and the beat comes in really kind of interesting, and it's a little bit like kind of pensive and calmer, but still has an energy to it where you want to keep listening. And he just is like, how much should $1 really cost? The question is detrimental, paralyzing my thoughts, parasites in my stomach keep me with a gut feeling, y'all. I'm like, okay, So he's really just like reflecting on the value of a dollar. And even that question, like, I mean, what is the cost that goes into me making my money? So I work for a company. What does that company do? Who do we hurt? Who do we help? How do we, there's so much that can be philosophized or whatever the right word is,
Classified.
based off of just how much money costs. I mean, if you work for a call center that takes advantage of people, then yeah, your dollar that you make has some cost that you're not paying attention to. Anyway, that's not necessarily what the song is. So, got to see how I'm chilling. He's got this luxury car. He's doing really well. Things are really popping. And he's kind of learned how to make some money, how to stack the residuals, how to really like kind of make it happen. And then he meets this guy, this indigenous African who only spoke Zulu. And, he's like a little bit slurry. He doesn't necessarily know how to speak cleanly in Zulu, so whatever. He's encountered this guy and he's trying to communicate with him. He's a homeless man with a semi-tan complexion, and he asked him for 10 rand, stressing about dry land, and 10 rand is about $1, apparently. And so, deep water, powder, blue skies, that crack open. He's describing a piece of crack that he wanted. I knew he was smoking. So he kind of realizes that this is the equivalent of a bum. It's approaching you in the street, so this is going to happen to you anywhere, and you're asking for $1, and you're looking at this person, you're going, he's just going to go buy some drugs, and you're like, well, I know that, and Kendrick just tells him to beat it, contributing money for his pipe, he doesn't see, he's not going to help contribute to this person's habit, and then the guy responds, my son, temptation is one thing that I've defeated. Listen to me. I just want a single bill from you. Nothing more, nothing less. And then Kendrick's like, I don't have it. Closes the door and goes, tell me how much $1 costs. Is this like the punchline of the verse? And so this guy's like, I'm not a crackhead. I've beaten that shit. I've moved past that in my life. You don't know some things about me. You're just making assumptions. All I'm asking you for is a single dollar. I know you have more. I'm not being greedy. And Kendrick's still like, nope. And then we have a chorus from James Fauntleroy, who he's like, it's more to feed your mind, water, sun, and love, the one you love, all you need, the air you breathe. So just kind of making you think about things that are more than money, that you actually need in your life, something that's more precious and more valuable to you as a person, something you literally need, whereas money is more of this artificial need that we've created based on how our society works. And then we continue the story that Kendrick's been telling us, the guy staring at him in disbelief, and then Kendrick's getting a little bit grumpy as this guy's staring, so Kendrick grabs his keys, about to start to take off, and then something kind of told him not to go right away, right? So he had this gut, like, I shouldn't leave, I shouldn't really change, maybe there's something here. So the reason, and he realizes he's mad, and it's because, like, this guy's still staring at him, like, Kendrick has some obligation to help him, to save him. Like, Kendrick is taking on the blame of his homeless state, like, and all of a sudden, like, Kendrick owes this guy something and he's asking for a favor, like, almost like he's imposing all the society's problems onto Kendrick, and he doesn't like this feeling, And this guy's staring at him with, like, this laser-eyed focus, he's staring at him. You notice that the stare is contagious. So it's like you can just picture, like, this person who knows some real shit, some desperate almost shit, just staring at you with the most piercing, powerful look, locking you in place, and all you want to do is just like escape and run away, but you can't, and Kendrick's kind of staring back, and he's feeling disrespected by this person, by this expectation. Why are you even bothering to beg? Because Kendrick has always been of the mind that people who beg for goods or who accept charity are like less good than regular people. But then the guy responds and asks him if he's ever opened up Exodus chapter 14, and which is probably about a humble man who's in need based on that. And he's saying, based on what God wants, did you ever look in the Bible? Have you read that shit? Tell me how much $1 really cost. And then this makes Kendrick feel guilty because the Bible's been brought up, charity. He's probably really like questioning all his beliefs. He probably knows he's supposed to be charitable. He's feeling resentment. And he never really he wants to like distance himself and to like keep himself emotionally away from this person, but like the reason he's even in this moment in the first place, that he feels all of his guilt and all of this stuff, this like back and forth inside of himself, is because he wasn't willing to part with the fucking dollar. So by keeping this dollar, even before we go on, all this guilt, all this pain, all
Like,
this,
was it worth $1?
you know, like, that's just really fucking interesting. So he decides, you know, who the fuck am I kidding? He's going to tell him like the last bum, crumbs and pennies, I need all my money. I need it all. I don't care. That's what I say to everyone. And I recognize your type of panhandling. You're a good scam artist. You say all the right things. You say all the whatever. You know all the tricks, you know? And he's imagining all of this situation. Like, this is just a guy with cups practically trying to steal your fucking dollar. And he's like, every nickel is mine to keep, is what he looks at this person. And then the person says, you know what? The truth will set you free. He says, your potential is bittersweet. You know, like you could be something, but you're lacking empathy. And then responds to be like, look, you know what, motherfucker? I am fucking God, and you just lost your place in heaven because you wouldn't give me, God, $1. And that's just kind of like where the song transitions into Ronald Isley, I think it's Isley. I washed my hands, I said my grace, what more do you want from me? Tears of a clown, guess I'm not all what it's meant to be. Shades of gray will never change if I condone. Turn this page, help me change to right my wrongs. So you have this whole story, really, that's showing that Kendrick's pride and his selfishness kind of may have cost his place in heaven. He may have lost his salvation in a sense, really, because the way he was living his life was on par with not giving $1 to this person in need because of assumptions. I mean, there's so many things that are touched on here. I mean, there's the fact that Kendrick assumes he knows why people need charity and why, like, people want why they need help. And the fact is, he just assumes this person's a crackhead. He just knows because of a gut. He has no real proof or anything. And even when this person's like, nah, that's not true. No, check it. This is what the situation is. He's close-minded. He's not really listening to it. So Kendrick's already painted himself up as somebody who knows everything. And then he had to go back home to kind of find out that, like, redemption tale. And I think that this story here of this how much $1 cost, where he was put into question his greed, like $1 isn't worth your soul. Maybe our prioritization of wealth, all the greediness that's described earlier on the album, you know, all of this stuff that we've talked about, when it really comes down to it, how even if he's beaten all of these things, when it came down to it, he wasn't willing to give up $1 for a person in need. How can you really say anything, you know? How much does $1 really cost at the end of the day? How do we treat money and prioritize it and shit like that? It's just so fucking powerful. I mean, it's a clear 5 in my opinion. I mean, it's sonically really fun to listen to. Message is really, like, it really is a strong one. And he's just so smooth and calm with it. And it's so interesting to me. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, you basically said what most of what the song's about, you know, giving money to, you know, he's approached in South Africa about, you know, and there's this guy and he believes that he may be a crackhead and, you know, just kind of a homeless person asking for money. And it is interesting because it does tie into, you know, you would think, you know, okay, he's probably in South Africa. He's probably there to enjoy himself a bit as well as work. And so, you know, maybe you think that, like, while you're traveling around the world, that there isn't, you know, you don't need to think about charity. You're just enjoying yourself. You know, you're having a good time. You're thinking about yourself. And then, you know, this guy presents to you, you know, while you're in the motherland, which is kind of something that, you know, obviously Kendrick talks about, you know, in some of his songs on this album. And he's in, like, you know, South Africa, which is known to, you know, have the apartheid and, you know, have a lot of, like, discrimination between whites and blacks, which is, you know, a very similar situation, you know, as to what he's seeing, you know, or what he's talking about, or not that similar, but still there's definitely, like, discrimination, you know what I mean, in America, you know, so there is that kind of, like, you know, like relationship or like that coincidence that they're both kind of talking about similar situations, and that, you know, this poor, you know, homeless person in South Africa isn't similar to, you know, a poor African American man in America. Like, wouldn't you help him? Like, why? You know, it's just kind of interesting when you think about it in that sense. So yeah, all he wanted was $1 from this guy. And I also just wanted to, like, mention that this is apparently Obama's favorite song. And the homeless man just stares at him until he like kind of gets his attention, and then asks him about the Bible and if he's read it. And obviously Kendrick is is a religious guy, and he obviously like respects the hustle of this guy, but like dismisses him and moves on. But like Kendrick is obviously like not practicing what he preaches a little bit, and he's kind of like, well, I'm supposed to be like a giving person and supposed to set this example, to all people, especially people of color. So I think that that's kind of like what's going on in his mind. And then the homeless guy says he's God, and that the dollar would have got him into heaven, and it would have given him a lifetime of eternity, of happiness, in heaven. But now, it's Kendrick's loss. Too bad, so sad. And, if you want to be like a real godly person, then you have to, act like it and like don't betray God and don't do things, like this sounds like literally like a Bible lesson that you would read about in like Sunday school, like, like when this kind of thing happens. So it's just sort of like, be generous, be kind, because you never know who's watching. God is always watching. Right. And he's everywhere, and he's even in South Africa. He's watching you there. So it's a 5 on 5. It's a pretty powerful song, and there's a good message in it.
All right, so let's talk about Complexion, a Zulu love.
Get a flower for you out of cotton just to chill with you. I go the distance. I'm 10 toes down.
All right, Bonnie, how do you feel about this one?
So, I mean, first things first, when I think of a Zulu, I think of like this particular type of person that I grew up seeing, someone that's fair-skinned, has little to no hair, has like no fingernails. This is a real person, a real people. If you can look it up, it's the Huntington Zulus, if you want to check that out. But anyways, so, I mean, obviously he's talking about, he's still in Africa. There's Zulu love. There's, there's people from like a tribe called Zulus. And we have Rapsody featured on this one, which is interesting. We've done, one of her, albums before, so she's pretty, interesting. So basically he's just saying that the color of your skin doesn't mean anything. And it's just sort of like a discussion about race and like how dark you are or how light you are. And then it relates back to like slavery again. He talks about that, and that he's a good field blank N-word, and that his toes are cut off, which is again kind of like another technique for keeping slaves from running away back in the day. And then there was like a Blue Ivy reference, which I thought was kind of funny on here. That he's kind of talking about her. If you don't know who that is, that's Jay-Z and Beyonce's baby. So yeah, I mean it's a good song. It hits on some real stuff. I mean it was all right. It didn't like make such an impression on me on this song, so I only give it a 4.25.
That's fair. I mean, it starts off and you got Kendrick. Complexion, this is from Pete Rock, a 2-step. Complexion don't mean a thing. Complexion, it all feels the same. And I think the idea here is that your skin color shouldn't matter as far as beauty goes. And I believe that the point of this song is to attack beauty standards. Like, one of the most weird things I saw in Pakistan was how many skin bleaching products are promoted at women with the specific intent of being whiter. There was literally one that they were pushing hard that's like, make your vag whiter and, men will love you more because a dark vagina is ugly. Like, what? Are you kidding? You got dark I mean, maybe to some people who are fucking racist or whatever, that's an issue. But, like, at the end of the day, it's just so weird to me. And then I remember when I read a Malcolm Gladwell book, he was describing how in Jamaica for a while the trend was to fuck whiter. So you'd breed as white as you could find, so whatever partner you could, so that your kids would be lighter skinned. And the goal was to try to generationally move your family whiter and whiter because that would have been better received for wealth. I mean, this was a systematic thing that happened there that went on for a whole while. So, like, there's definitely a global phenomenon of whiteness being beautiful that has been promoted for like fucking ever, and I don't. I mean, I don't know why. To be honest, like why? I mean, we know why, but like for me, it's just fucking always been a little bit weird.
Yeah.
I like multiple colors. Women of all colors are beautiful to me because it's just nice, you know, to see contrast like that. No offense, but like.
No, all women are beautiful. I agree.
Dark as the midnight hour, bright as the morning sun. Give a fuck about your complexion. I know what the Germans done. So here it's like a clear allusion to like the kind of racism that the Germans have gone through in the past and the extreme, I'm believing at least, it's like the extreme Nazism. Like the Germans have literally killed over the sake of race and color and shit like that.
Yeah.
And this type of thinking, you know, to study, to prove empirically that black men are inferior to white men, you know, like it's a systematic level of thinking that people were literally trying to prove it, you know.
Yeah.
Sneak me through the back window. I made a flower for you at a cotton just to chill with you. You know I'd go the distance. You know I'm 10 toes. Even no master listening. Cover your ears about to mention. Complexion is what would come in. So he's saying no matter what you look like, I don't care. I'll be with you forever. For me, it's not an important thing. I just see you as a beautiful person, whatever. And then Kendrick comes in with the second verse. You know, dark as the midnight hour and bright as the morning sun. He keeps it kind of going. But your blue eyes tell me your mama can't run. You know, brown skin. So like that. Mixed people kind of are also in the equation, and that it's more complex with that. And you know, I'm just trying. Sorry, parts of the lyrics are just kind of repeated. So I'm gonna say something that's vital and critical for survival of mankind. If you're lying, color should never rival. Beauty is what you make it. I used to be so mistaken by different shades of faces. Then Wit told me a woman is a woman. Love the creation. It all came from God. Then you was my confirmation. And I came to where you reside and looked around to see more sights than more for sore eyes. Let the Willie Lynch theory reverse a million times with complexion. So it's like here, he used to think certain things. Like based on the memes that get shared on my Facebook, I know that there's still an issue with interracial dating and the fact that maybe a black man shouldn't date a white woman or vice versa. And that a lot of people have a problem with that. A lot of other people don't have a problem with that. In fact, on my memories today on Facebook, you know, on this day thing, I went back and it was the Jamaican girl I dated pointing some "why is interracial dating not okay" meme on my Facebook wall, just, you know, a few years back kind of thing. So, I mean, it's an interesting. I mean, I don't fully understand that level of confusion within like the black side of it all, but I do acknowledge and recognize that there is definitely a certain degree of people who feel betrayed by people who date outside of their race and whatnot. And then he kind of brings up the Willie Lynch theory, which is where apparently a guy kind of made a strategic plan of how to keep slaves stupid and to separate blacks and whites. And it's, you know, it was apparently debunked as not being true, but it's not really the point. Kendrick saying that the idea of what the Willie Lynch theory of this intentional segregation of culture, we need to reverse that, bridge the gaps, and just everyone kind of needs to love everyone and be okay with it. But then the song doesn't really end. Rapsody comes in and spits like some shit like that's really strong. Like, keep your head up. When did you stop loving the color of the skin, color of your eyes? This the real blues, baby. Like you met Jay's baby. You blew me away. You think more beauty in blue, green, and gray. Almost. Anyway, I don't want to just read out the whole verse, but the whole point of what she's trying to sell is that her struggle as a dark woman with beauty standards and having to like learn to love herself and learning to like find appreciation, because black doesn't mean dumb or anything, you know, like
Yeah.
Black doesn't mean ugly. Black doesn't mean these things, even though society may have kind of taught her this the whole way through. And I did want to touch on one line, the new James Bond gonna be black as me. That's apparently not going to happen. Idris Elba has said he will not be the new James Bond, like yesterday or the day before. So this is very recent news, and I'm sorry, because I know he'd be a cool Bond, I agree. And I just kind of like the fact that this song really has that strong female perception. Like, Rapsody is the shit. Like, Nicki is not queen next to Rapsody in my eyes. Like, Rapsody's the lyrical queen, Nicki's the pop queen. But like Rapsody, just she sounds strong. She raps so fucking strong, and I can only imagine the number of people who could hear what she had to say here and really relate to that struggle. And she put it as real as Kendrick did. Some of the comments on Genius in the bottom on the song are, "It's incredible how Rapsody done stole the song from Kendrick," and it's flat out what happened here, in my opinion. I gave this one a 4.75. I'm not gonna lie, the quality of the song's fine. I had a lot more trouble empathizing with this one, and that maybe is what kept me from getting to that last point. I think
Okay.
it's that. But it's really an amazing song, all things considered, and it is something that even me hearing reminds me that this is a thing, that it is something to be aware of and to be conscious of moving forward. I don't know, great song, honestly. And then Kendrick has a little skit interlude thing, which is worth just taking a look at because it's not part of that poem. It's just kind of serves the same kind of role as the poem leading into the next track. Barefoot babies with no cares, teenage gun toters that don't play fair. Should I get out the car? I don't see Compton. I see something much worse. The land of the landmines, the hell that's on earth. So you have him almost, he's come back home and he's going through the hood and he's just really thinking about all the dangers and all the fucking hellhole of his situation. And he's really just questioning, do I want to get out? Do I want to do this? And then that leads us right into the Black of the Berry.
It's the moon, heritage of a small village, part of my residence. Came from the bottom of mankind.
All right, Bonnie, how do you feel about this one?
Well, I mean, this one makes sense because it's obviously like, ties into the last song about complexions, about how dark you are. And this song is called The Blacker the Berry. So that kind of makes sense. And just sort of about like his blackness and the blackness of like his people and kind of criticizing white people's handling of their culture. And kind of like, America and like white people kind of have taken everything from them. So like they're kind of screwed over and they say they love him. But as a black person, white people obviously are not taking care of him and treating him really any different than any other black person. In the end, white people still hate black people is basically what he's saying. It's still like a big issue going on. So hopefully this falls on like some of his white fans and like they can take a second to really listen to this one and understand what is being said. So he learns from the hatred and like he feels like a hypocrite because, he obviously is accepting, white people's money and, stuff like that at their concerts and, his merchandise and everything else. And obviously his music. But, he doesn't really know where he kind of fits in. He's kind of like benefiting from them directly. So he obviously feels like guilty because he needs to give back in like that sense because he's taking from all of these white people. And that's how he's getting his like success and his, rewards. So like the ending is smooth. There's still a lot of like stereotypes that he kind of covers. And he's supposed to act like, Black History Month is like the best month. And like he gets all excited, but he's obviously like criticizing that. Because I think he still thinks that it's bullshit in the end. So this song left me with a lot to like reflect upon and like how, black people in America are still dealing with life, and, continue to and will still, unfortunately, and that there's like a lot of like push and pull that they must constantly feel. And just like it made me think a lot about, a lot of the issues and how, put myself in their shoes and like just to see how it feels and like, what would happen in, certain instances. And it was pretty crazy when I, really thought about it. So, obviously Kendrick, feels bad for taking white people's money, but he obviously does. So, I mean, I'm still supporting him, and I hope he doesn't feel too bad for taking my money and whatever. So I gave him a 4.5 on this song. It was really interesting, and it left me with a lot to think about.
That's fair. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, this one, I don't know if it was the first or the second song that got released off the album. It was like really early on. So I'd heard this before To Pimp A Butterfly came out. And it's just so powerful, right? And it was right around when Trayvon Martin passed us. You'll see it, the last line there.
Yeah.
And it's just, even the beginning, everything black. I don't want black. They want us to bow. I want everything black. I ain't need black. Down to our knees, So it's kind of like everything that appears to be black, nobody really wants it. And there's like some confusion in the way society's like treating black culture or black people. I mean, some white, some black. I ain't mean black. And I guess it's saying only whites can have power and privilege and pray to a god is the parentheses point. I want everything black that we don't believe. And then it kind of repeats. And then, the 6 in the morning, fire on my street part. And you just kind of get the sense that he's looking around in this intro and everything is kind of destruction in his hood, and it's all sorts of violence and bad stuff. And some may, it's such a shame people may call him crazy. They may say he suffers from schizophrenia or something. But homie, you made me. Black don't crack my crack. Like just kind of like puts it out there like that. Like we're not supposed to crack. Like this is a whole fucked up environment. But black don't crack is a skin thing where skin stays perfect forever. Look at Pharrell Williams. It's ridiculous. I'm like. I think he's just kind of playing like, but that's almost emotionally, you don't crack either or whatever. And then just, I'm the biggest hypocrite of 2015. Once I finish this, witnesses will convey just what I mean. So we're not supposed to understand what he means by that line until the very end of the song. So we do at the end of the song. And then it does really go into this thing where he's black and he's recognizing he's black ever since he was 16, and he realized what it really meant to be black and how America doesn't like him, how white people don't like him. Fuck your friendship, like he doesn't need us. It's stuff where it's like my hair is nappy, my dick is big, my nose is round and wide. You hate me, don't you? You hate my people. Your plan is to terminate my culture. You're fucking evil. I want you to recognize that I'm a proud monkey. You vandalize my perception but can't take style from me. So this is just like pointing out the racist attribution of characteristics that get put on black people. It's just how we hate them. We hate black people. We as in white people hate them, and we do whatever. But at the end of the day, as much as people jack their style, jack their culture, take whatever they want from it, you can't take the style from these people. You fuck up the perception. We create this awful thing when it's really like the goal is to create an environment for blacks to take out blacks and to kill each other almost. And so because of that system, you turn them into killers, which is what almost emancipates the opportunity for like escape of getting out and holding down your shit. And then there's the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. The blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. The blacker the berry, the bigger I shoot. Which is just really powerful. It's almost like really kind of pointing out that there is this. It's almost like the blacker you are, the more violent you have to be, or the more this you have to be. Yeah. And
because like you're seen as like a bigger danger, as a bigger threat to like. The white person, if you're like dark skinned, I guess.
And then the second verse kind of touches on stuff would be like black people are irrelevant to society. They're basically there to go to jail, to fucking die, just are essentially slaves due to the way people are brainwashed and conditioned into living a particular lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And, people are just jealous of them, and whenever a black person tries to have anything, all sorts of bad shit kind of shows up and makes it all sorts of work. So black and successful, this black man meant to be special. Caskin's on my radar, bitch, how can I help you? How can I tell you I'm making a killing? You made me a killer, like it's almost like there's just this, it's like you feel like it's a system of bad shit and you just feel like the struggle of Kendrick being part of this celebrityness like you were describing earlier. And then there's Assassin on the hook. Said they treat me like a slave, call me black. I'm not even going to try. It's in patois. And, you just kind of get that. I don't know. I feel like it just having, because he's in Jamaica when he like records this, so he's Jamaican, and just having that edge, it really just adds like this extra level of like something to the song, this extra edge to it that's more than just what Kendrick's rapping was, Mm-hmm. And then now we're talking about like how in the third verse, you're going to agree with him for being the biggest hypocrite. He's just kind of talking about how he's the superiorest black. He's like the blackest of them all. You hate my people. You hate the threats and everything. Because, people love their fucking guns and everything. People honestly get to thinking maliciously, but then he kind of like flips his thinking. So as he starts off as though the target is like, you know, again at the system against white people as in the first two verses, the third verse kind of starts questioning stuff like how African tribes might go to war, and these tribal armies are really kind of similar to like Compton Crip gangs and the other gangs like the Pyrus, where they end up fighting and death is all that really is the outcome of those situations. I mean, kind of just look at the whole Good Kid project, you know, or try to celebrate, you know. So then you have them being like, so don't matter how much I say I like to preach with the Panthers, you know, the Black Panthers, or tell Georgia State Marcus Garvey got all the answers, or try to celebrate February like it's my B-day, or eat watermelon, chicken, and Kool-Aid on weekdays, or, you know, however black I'm trying to make myself be, however much I go around and I'm the blackest person that's out there, etc., or watch BET, you know, to support urban shits. You know, why did he weep for Trayvon Martin the way that he did when gangbanging made him kill somebody blacker than him, which he alludes to on the last album, but in still the environment. And here, he apparently got some backlash for this. It's like he's criticizing the black community. How y'all gonna be so outraged that this white dude shot down this black dude, got off, etc., but
When
you're
back
so...
people are shooting like each other.
Yeah, and that's kind of what Kendrick's criticism was perceived as, and it kind of comes off like that, and that's kind of where his hypocrite is. He's kind of saying, like, how can I as a person, like, be so self-aware and be in this situation, but then be so willing to kill somebody that's even blacker than me, you know? And it's just, to me, this is one of the most powerful songs, you know? It's, again, like, it's really strong. The subject matter is hopefully something I handled with enough delicate care to not piss off the folk watching.
Yep.
But I give this a 5 on 5. I think it's an amazing track. I think it's got a great feel. It's, from a rapping perspective, really strong, and just, it really just hits home, and you can like listen to it. It makes you think. It's really strong. I don't know. It's really good. As Momma said, you ain't gotta lie.
Like the feds on me. You ain't gotta lie to kick in my neck. You ain't gotta lie.
This is the song that made me think of the Obama said what it do line. All the lyrics I was thinking of to justify my argument were on this track right over here. But that's okay. Bonnie, how did you feel about this one?
I mean, basically, he's saying like you don't have to do anything but be real to impress him. You don't need to do any of like the stereotypical things to impress him. Like, he's not about that. Your self-worth doesn't come from things. You know, it's just, you know, be happy and just be true to yourself and others. And in doing so, you'll just find happiness. And that's pretty much the gist of this song. And I agree with him. It is very true. So, you know, be happy and you will get happiness back. So I gave it a 4.5 on 5. I'm just summing it up really quick.
Yeah, I think that's Bonnie's way of saying we've been at this a long time. Shut the fuck up. But I'm not going to, because this song is all power. Like, look, I'm sorry, but Kendrick, look, the way I look at these reviews is if the artist put that much effort into giving us that much to fucking talk about, then we should make that effort to talk about it.
Yep, I do. I'm just trying to be concise about it.
That's totally fine. I'm okay with not being concise. But still, I think that this one also kind of puts in that, on top of what you said, that if you're inauthentic with it, it's just so fucking obvious, right? Like, I could spot you a mile away. I could see your insecurities written all over your face, so predictable your words. I know what you're going to say, who you fooling, who you assuming. You can just come and hang. You know, and you just kind of like, when you act that kind of fake, and I used to be that kind of guy. Like, I didn't really understand who I was at first. When I was in my young 20s, I tried to be whatever I thought was cool, so I tried to hang out with different crews and whatever. So when I was with these people, I behaved that way. When I was with those people, I'd go a 180 on that. And then at the end of the day, people really did go around and like laugh at me and stuff. I really was, as Kendrick put it, I was the laugh factory every time they mentioned my name. And so like, I can kind of get where he's coming from. Having been that, I can spot them now like a fucking mile away, like Kendrick. So I kind of see where he's coming at. And I love the bridge. Like, ask him where the hoes at to impress me, where the money bags to impress me. Obama says what it do to impress me. You know, where the plug at to impress me. If I messed up that Obama line, be nice in the comments. Ask him where the plug at. Like, it's all just kind of like shit, you know? And it's like, I get it, man. It's like, people sometimes think you're cool or whatever, or want to be around you, and they don't know damn anything about your world. So they see Kendrick's a rapper, they know he's from Compton, they're gonna go up and say a whole bunch of shit about like, oh, here's some typical rap shit that I'm supposed to ask you, so I'm gonna try and be cool and ask you like I'm a fucking gangbanger and shit. And then
Right.
in verse 2, the world don't respect you, the culture won't accept you, but you think it's all love. The girls gonna neglect you once your parody is done. And I think he's a little bit talking now to all the other rappers out there, because as much as this is like for his people, I think it's also like targeting like the culture, and saying that if you want like folk to be down, if you want folk to be like in your corner, honesty and integrity are the right moves, you know? Like, reputation can't protect you if you never had one. Like, what an interesting line. Like, you can think, like, oh, yeah, my rep's got my back and shit. But at the end of the day, if all you've done is rapped for a while, etc., when you go into the streets, it doesn't mean shit. If all you know how to do is show up and be pretty, like, look at Slim Jesus. I know you probably don't know who he is.
I don't.
The dude got, like, his fucking banger of a song that went out. He got like fucking booked to go do a bunch of shows because the world's kind of dumb sometimes in terms of who they pick up. And then he went and performed live, and he couldn't actually nail his song. Like, he's like an 18-year-old little white kid or whatever from Chicago. He was super open about how fake he was and stuff. I'm not fine if you're honest about being fake. It's a little bit better. But the fact that like he had the opportunity to go do all the shows and couldn't even fucking perform the songs, it's like there was no authenticity or passion to the art this kid was making.
Yeah.
He just made that sound to be fucking cool. And when the spotlight got put on him, everybody knew he was a fake fuck and he couldn't handle the show. And so that's the kind of stuff I kind of picture when I look at that. And then I love the third verse, right? So the third verse, he's kind of like going, so instead of saying some dumbass shit like, where the money bag's at, okay, what do you got to offer? Tell me before we get off, put you deep in your coffin, been allergic to talking, been a virgin to bullshit, and sell a dream in the auction, tell me who your boss is. People be Fugazi, which is fake. But like, I feel like here we have Kendrick being like, why are you wasting my time? Like, you want to be involved in my clique? Tell me about how you're useful to me. Tell me how you can make my life better. It's like, if you want a millionaire to pay attention to you, you have to go up to that millionaire and say, by giving me this much money, I can make you more millions. And that is how you impress people who are ahead of you in life, by saying, here is how I am of value to you. And so Kendrick's kind of putting that there. And then again, pointing out that people are a little bit fake, and, you know, he just kind of lets you know that, you know, just don't be fake. Pass that on to your friends, that it's
Be
not
real.
worth it. And I kind of feel like he's trying to be ironic at the end by saying, and, you know, you're not going to take my advice anyway, but whatever. So I feel like it's a cool, really fun and interesting song to listen to. Ultimately, I landed this one on another 5 because it's so like kind of positive and like uplifting in a sense. Like, you feel like Kendrick's just kind of tired of some shit, and he's encountered a lot of people who really don't know how to make it. So after explaining in serious detail to you as a person that he gets it, whatever your reason is for being fake, he gets it, as he's contextualized with the rest of his project. And here he's saying, well, let's just listen to what Momma said. Be yourself, right? That's what Momma said to all of us across all cultures. So maybe there's some fucking truth to it after all. So I gave it a 5 on 5. And yeah, let's talk about how I love myself.
My skies, everybody lack confident. Everybody lack confident. How many times my potential was none of.
There are at least 3 different versions of this song. The single version is not this version, and then the music video version is slightly different than the single version that was just audio. And you can find all 3 versions right next to each other on his YouTube channel. However, we're here to talk about the album version, which the first time I heard, I wasn't a fan of because I like the studio version better.
Yeah, same.
But when I got to it here and now, having gone through this whole album, there's no better version of this song than this particular version right here. It's so weird how the context of this album, you want this version. Anyway, do you want to start?
Sure. I mean, I have exactly the same feeling. Like, this is definitely not the version I was used to hearing. I've been listening to like the studio version of for a while. I enjoy it. I love it. I listen to it all the time. So it's like, it's still in there, but this kind of sounds more like a live version kind of the song. And he says, like, I can overcome all the negatives, trying to pull me down, talks about trouble in his neighborhood. But you have to be happy with yourself, and then it'll kind of translate to other people, and that's kind of like what he's just trying to like get across. And like doesn't appeal to like the fancy clothes like he's expected to be wearing since he's, you know, making money and he's successful. And then like the poor people get fake false promises by politicians. You know, they just say whatever to, you know, when they're on the platform, but when they get into office, they don't do anything. They don't care about them. They're just in it for themselves. Because, you know, people keep getting killed, and that's obviously like an issue because, you know, nobody cares for them, you know, and because the system just benefits off of like, you know, their deaths and off of them going into jail and everything else. Like they make a lot of money doing that. There's sort of like this like weird sort of, you know, he stops the song kind of, and he's kind of having like an argument with someone.
Well, I think it's that people were starting to fight at the event, and then he like cuts it and says, nah, not while I'm here, not, and then goes on.
Yeah. And then there's like, you know, there's a whole like, you know, all of that kind of ties into it, and obviously like don't be like a stereotypical, you know, douchebag. And then he sort of talks about negus or negus, I don't know.
Negus.
Yeah. Negus, he says it a whole bunch of times, and that is the word is basically another word for king, and I think it's from Ethiopia, if I'm not mistaken.
It's also possibly where the other word came from and was misappropriated from.
Yes, absolutely. And like that's where he's like reminding people like this word actually means king. Like, you know, like you should remind yourself of like the meaning of this word.
And specifically, he's responding to Oprah Winfrey, who has yet to interview Kendrick at that point, and how she was so against the word, and he wanted to make sure that she had his response to that particular part.
Yeah, and I watched like there was a clip with like her and Jay-Z and like how like they had like different opinions on the use of the N-word, and you know how they were like it's totally fine, like we still like, you know, get along even though we have different, you know, views of this word, so yay. And I guess it's kind of like where Kendrick's at too. He's like, well, this is my opinion, you know, let's not get into it, you know, let's just get along, and you know, we're just learning here. So he's just sort of taking back the word and like, you know, putting a new light on it because it means something different than what we've been thinking it means this whole time, right? So he's just changing it up. So, I mean, this album version is really interesting. It definitely flows well with the entire album, and it suits it. And as you know, as much as I love the song, I love the studio version, you know, a little bit better, I think, still. But this is a really interesting version, and there's a lot going on, and there's lots of parts in it, and like you're kind of taking away more from it than just like the regular song. So I also gave it a 5 on 5. It's great. There's nothing here to not like.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so strong. I mean, like, I'd have been through a whole lot trial tribulation, but I know God, the devil want to put me in a bow tie, pray that the holy water don't go dry. As I look around, so many motherfuckers want to drown me, but an amigo never drown me. I'm like a dirty double mirror, but they found me, and I love myself. Mm-hmm. I mean, that little intro just kind of like feels like pretty much the whole tale of this whole album. Like everything he's been kind of like talking to us about, you know. He's been through some shits and some struggles of sin and temptation. The devil's been around trying to fuck with him, trying to make him, you know, pimping out this butterfly. And everybody's trying to come at him and certain around. But at the end of the day, I love myself, you know. And then when you're looking at me, tell me, what do you see? That is not, and the world is a ghetto with guns and picket signs. It's definitely not the same line. But the way he says it is like so like uplifting. And then I love this one. Put a bullet in the back of the head of the police. Like, it's just like, again, it just fits so strong with like you love yourself. These are the victory moments, you know, like you're yelling this back at people. What do you see when you're looking at me? You know what? I'll fucking put a bullet in the back of the head, you know, like illuminated by the hand of God. Boy, don't seem shy. I love myself one day at a time. And it's just like, you have to treat learning how to love yourself almost like an addict would treat dealing with an addiction. And I can understand that. I come from a place where learning to love myself is not easy. But when you hear these words, it's just so triumphant. Like, this is what Kendrick's been building up to. Like, this is the lead single to the album, right? So theoretically, everybody knows this song's coming. Mm-hmm. So you're going through this whole thing. And then this song finally comes. You want to just scream out like, I love myself.
Which is a really powerful, you know, expression, I think, you know, especially for like a lot of people in like the hood life and like, you know, in troubled areas where, you know, if you just have to be happy with yourself no matter what's going on around you. And that's, I know it can be difficult, but he's kind of reminding you, like, don't forget to love yourself.
Yeah, and then he like goes into the verses. They say it's a war outside and a bomb in the street and a gun in the hood and a mob of police. And again, contextualizing the situation. And in light of all of these, Kendrick ducks out the cold faces, post up, fee fa fo fum bases. I like that line a lot. You know, dreams of reality's peace, blow steam in the face of the beast. The sky could fall down, wind could cry. Look at me, motherfucker, I smile. And I love it because that's still, again, different like that. Look at me, motherfucker. You feel this like energy, like even though the world is crashing down around him, like this is his protest. He's going to look at you and he's going to smile and he's going to share that fucking power because he loves himself. And he does the whole thing with the chorus again, you know, crazy what you gonna do, lift up your head to keep moving, you know. And then he goes like shit, like turn the mic up, as like the backup singers are like keep haunting, you know, peace to fashion police, I wear my heart on my sleeve, let the road my start, you know, the miserable do love company, what do you want from me on my scars? And you feel that like everybody's got an opinion, everybody's looking at you and shit. And he's almost again like saying, you know, all these miserable people love company, they love to kind of bond in their angriness and shit. And he's almost responding, what do you want from me on my scars? Like, what do you want from me? I'm already so broken and fucked up and shit. And then maybe my favorite line on this album, and possibly one of my favorite lyrics I ever heard in my life, is everybody lack confidence, everybody lack confidence. How many times my potential was anonymous, how many times the city making me promise this is, so I promise this. And then he says the word because it's important for the context of this song. But in general, it's just, this is just true. Like everybody these days lacks confidence, like all of us. We're all so fucked up, our self-esteems are all fucking smashed and shit. How many times your potential is anonymous? Everybody out there has these fucking passions and dreams. When you talk to them, you go ask anybody what they want to be when they're 6. Everybody had an answer. And you somehow by 30, nobody has an answer. So your potential becomes really anonymous. And then our city makes us promises. We got a lot of corruption up in Montreal. What? Quebec is not like...
Well, I feel like most cities do have a decent amount of corruption.
Come on. There are many sectors of our city that are controlled by illicit criminal organizations, and corruption is rampant. Anyway, it's a real thing. And so the city says whatever the city says, like current whatever, and you just feel like nothing gets better. You know, it's just fucked up. It's like, what's the point of having hope? And then to say the big fuck you to all of that is, I love myself, you know. I love me. I can do this, you know. Then he's doing like the last part. I went to war last night with an automatic weapon. Don't nobody call a medic. I'm gonna do it till I get it right. I went to war last night. I've been dealing with depression ever since and out of us and ducking every other bus, and I can never see the message. I can never take the lead. I can never bob and weave from a negative and letting them annihilate me. And you know, you're like really in the verb. You're really just grooving along to that as he's kind of again contextualizing like the need to have guns in his situation and how he's got the mental state of depression and all these other things that he's the kind of wars, the different types of wars, both physical and mental, that are taking over him. And then he just cuts himself off as there's some argument backstage and he's cut the music off. Not here, not while I'm here. And then he literally goes, yo, how many people did we fucking lose last year? No, I'm serious. Answer the question. And he just starts blasting people like, why are we still doing this? Like, how are you still doing this at this point? And if you listen to this, and then you think about that white girl that's dropped the M-bomb on stage when Kendrick's there. It's like you're not a Kendrick fan if you were going to go on stage and drop the word like that. How are you going to listen to this, see how it freaks the fuck out on this very song about people disrespecting him by not caring about what he represents and shit? Go on stage, say the word because it's okay. What did you expect? Fuck that shit. And fuck all the people who made dumbass response videos like that Asian dude who made this stupid-ass fucking song quoting... Anyway. Some guy made a video where like he played a song where the chorus is just the N-bomb and it's like, what did you expect? It's not exactly the same thing. Kendrick offered a gift to this lady and she abused it. Anyway, goes on through, does that 4th verse where he kind of retakes back the word. But I promised Dave I'd never use the phrase fuck. He said, think about what you're saying. Fuck. No better than Samuel and Django, and no better than a white man with slave boats. And he's saying, look at the power of language and think about what you're saying when you speak. I mean, the rest of the verse is great. It's the stuff with the NEGUS and how he's saying take the word back. But it almost, and it's really interesting because it does take like what the meaning of the N-word is supposed to be versus how we were taking it. And like, if you make that comparison, Oprah shouldn't have a problem with it. But even to go one step further, if we all took more care and consideration into knowing what different words mean, we would all communicate stronger and better with one another, all of us. Like, words have definitions. There's dictionaries available online. And so often communication issues I've had in the last year, when we go look up the words, it's because we're using words and we have different definitions attached to them. So if Oprah believes that the N-word's negative and Jay-Z believes it's positive, when they use the word, it's a completely different conversation, you know, when each one does.
Yeah.
So I think that understanding definitions is just key. Either way, this song is beautiful. It's a 5. I understand why this is the best version now. This song and this version and the way he just does all that, like, it's just so emotionally explosive. It's better than the studio version to me. It just really is. It's stuff like because it's live, right? And you just feel his passion and you feel his love. It's pretty good. Anyway. Finally, there's one more. It's a doozy.
It's a long one. It's 12 minutes, 7 seconds.
Let's talk about some Mortal Men.
Mortal Man.
Want you to hug me like Nelson. I freed you from being a slave in your mind. You're very welcome. You tell
It is definitely 12 minutes. But, so I guess we'll start with the song part. That's like the same length of a normal Kendrick song, 4 to 5 minutes or whatever.
Yep.
How do you feel about it?
So obviously, like, Nelson Mandela is like a big inspiration for this, like, you know, song, I guess, and for a lot of like the work that he does, I think. And he wants to like kind of continue his fight, which is obviously like, you know, kind of a pullback again to like the South Africa, you know, the homeless guy that was there, and he's obviously there, and he obviously is taking a message and learning about the apartheid, and he's kind of saying like, you know, how, you know, if he's in the same, you know, predicament that Nelson Mandela was in, like, would you support him? Would you believe him? Would you stand up behind him, you know, and keep supporting him through, like, the bad times? You know, and that's kind of, like, what he's questioning here. Will you stand by people even though they're in jail if they believe in what you believe in and they were fighting for, like, the good cause? You know, similar to Nelson Mandela, what he did. And he just kind of asks his fans if they'll stand by him, like, for if he does whatever he believes in. So, you know, he, and like, it just sort of reminded me of like, of Michael Jackson a little bit in this song. And the outro, we could just get into, it was, you know, sort of like the same poem again that we heard about like 5 times or so on this album.
But incomplete.
Yeah, but incomplete. And respect as a black man, and no matter which gang you're in, like, you should just be able to like have the same respect. It doesn't matter what, like, you know, gang affiliation you have or whatever. You should just have like the understanding that you are just who you are. You're not just a gang color. And just trying to like remind people of this so that black people kind of stop turning on each other. And they realize that the problem is, you know, at the top, and then that's who they should be fighting, and they should be fighting that together, kind of making like a movement, obviously, about this. And that's kind of tying into like the Black Lives Matter movement and like everything else. So if everybody kind of puts all these like little issues, and I'm sure they're not just little issues, because I'm sure obviously like people have done terrible things to one another, but if they just put that aside and they can just move forward and do something better for like the entire community, then why would you not do that? So just do that. I think that's basically what he's trying to say here. And then we have like an interview with Tupac at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is the whole thing.
It's like taken from like an actual interview
that was done in like 94, like on a radio station.
Norwegian guy or something like that.
Yeah.
And so Kendrick just kind of took the answers and then framed the interview with Kendrick asking specific questions that made sense for the answer, and then the way I don't know, I'll get to how it ends after, but
yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting. You know, and they talk about like rich people are, you know, the fat, and that they're going to rise up and destroy them and eat them, and they'll be delicious, and they'll be able to take them over.
Tupac cracks the fuck up when he's saying that.
Yeah, it's very funny.
And like Kendrick's feel like he's trying to laugh, but it's kind of weird to laugh to.
Yeah, it's a whole weird thing. And then anyway, so that was that. And then Tupac made enough money for everybody else, but now it's time to make money for himself and his people. And like, you know, he was a fighter by nature, and like, you know, both of his parents were involved in like the fight for black rights and for you know, freedom and having, you know, the same equality as everybody else. So he's obviously grew up in that kind of an environment. And older people are more quiet, probably because they kind of know the consequences and like they're more scared. There's more to be scared of, I guess, and for. There's, you know, more reasons, I guess, than when you're young and you don't have too many responsibilities so much. And then here we kind of have like the kind of the, I guess, the whole point of the album. So he talks about the butterfly is like the beauty within like a caterpillar that is, you know, kind of known to be ugly or, you know, not as attractive. And then, you know, new sounds and new life emerges from the cocoon. I think that's what he's talking about here. And the butterfly and the caterpillar are really, in the end, they are the same thing. But just maybe with more growth, and they're able to spread their wings and fly, and they're so lovely and light. And, you know, who doesn't love a butterfly?
Like while the cocoon's around you is that, so you start off as a caterpillar and you're like full of all the life and energy, and then when you're in the cocoon is when society kicks in and throws you into the system, and then the butterfly is like when you break free and you kind of have your freedom. So they're kind of the same thing because they have that passion and that everything, but it's different because, you know, they've gone through that whole process and that journey.
Yeah, and I think like in this case, I think it's also that Tupac, he, you know, he flew away. He, you know, he ascended into the heavens, and so
like Kendrick asked his opinion, and he's just like Pac, Pac, Pac,
and he's gone.
And just the album just ends abruptly.
Obviously.
And I had the album on like repeat, and then it just goes, and Wesley's Theory starts again, and it's pretty much like an infinity loop in my mind. That's like when an album just can really just be replayed indefinitely over and over again. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a 5 on 5. Like, there was, you know, a lot of interesting thoughts and, like, discussions, and, like, the poetry within was lovely. And I very much enjoyed hearing, like, that kind of, you know, Tupac's, like, direct, you know, thoughts and answers to some of these questions. And it feels like a real conversation, even though it's, like, you know, like a 20-year-old interview that he took from. So it was really cool. And, you know, it made me feel like, you know, like they're still connected. Like there's, you know, this person who's passed away is, you know, still someone that's, you know, so relevant in today's music that can still bring up someone that's, you know, maybe less popular than he ever was. I don't know if Tupac's less popular, but.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I feel like Kendrick sees Tupac in himself a little bit, at least in the role in society that he's supposed to take, that revolutionary leader to inspire people. And then, you know, I do think that you're right. Like, the crux of this is, like, when shit hits the fan, are you going to be a fan? Kendrick is questioning, like, are you sure you guys really want me to be this person? Will you stick by me when things go bad? Because if I'm going to do this, shit's going to get fucked up. Are you still going to be there for me in the future, you know?
Yeah.
And it really, like, kicks in when he's got lines like, would you know where the sermon is if I died in this next line? If I'm tried in a court of law, if the industry cut me off, if the government want me dead, plant cocaine in my car, would you judge me as a drug head or see me as K. Lamar? Or question my character and degrade me on every blog? So here it's like saying, like, you, society, like, look at what you do to everyone else. Look at how you handle all of these different people. Are you going to treat me like that? Or are you really down? Are you really supporting me as the cause? Do you really actually see me?
Yep.
But he says the truth is a prophet isn't a prophet until they ask you this question. When shit hits this fan, is you still a fan? You know, even Jesus in the Bible asked that question. You know, like, are you going to really walk with me? You know, are you sure you're down to ride and shit, you know? And then Kendrick just kind of runs through, I mean, the different verses where, I mean, there's not a lot to really add to it. He just really grants it through, and I feel like it's the less interesting than, like, the Tupac interview. I mean, the song is wonderful. It's another, like, the song, I'd still give it a 5 because it's really an interesting perspective. It's got this cool vibe to it and stuff. He really does lay down multiple examples of how people were betrayed. You know, Martin Luther King, JFK assassinated. These are people who were, like, supposed to be those leaders that everyone loved. You know, Kendrick has genuine concerns, like how to take on this actual responsibility and whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
And then it just flows into the poem, you know? And then you hear, I remember you were conflicted, misusing your influence. And I guess you realize we're finally going to get to the end of the poem, right? Because your first time hearing it, you kind of realize this poem is laced between the different songs, and each time he reads a little bit more. So I was pretty excited to hear the end of this, right, you know? So where we last picked up is, you know, I was entering a new one before the dollar cost one, how much a dollar cost, and then so it's a new war, a war that was based on apartheid and discrimination, made me want to go back to the city and tell the homies what I learned. The word was respect. Just because you are a different gang color than mine doesn't mean I can't respect you as a black man. Forgetting all the pain and hurt we caused each other in these streets, if I respect you, we unify and stop the enemy from killing us. But I don't know. I'm no mortal man. Maybe I'm just another. And then that's where the poem kind of ends, where it's like he understands all of these great things and he wants to come back home and share the words with everyone and teach everyone this is how we get to like the next level, the next tier of life.
Taking a risk.
But maybe it's pointless. Maybe at the end of the day he's just another person, we'll say. And then he just, and that's all I wrote, Tupac. And he's just like, I just want to read you that, and blah, blah, blah. And then he like goes into interview mode, and he starts asking him about what the ground represents, and Tupac runs into there. And, I mean, I don't want to go too much into this interview. I do think that I want to talk about where Tupac goes, in this country, a black man only have like 5 years we can exhibit maximum strength. And that's right now while you're a teenager, while you're still strong, while you still want to lift weights, while you still want to shoot back. Because once you turn 30, it's like they take the heart and soul out of a man, out of a black man in this country. And you don't want to fight no more. And if you don't believe me, you can look around. You don't see no loudmouth 30-year-old motherfuckers. Now I'm a 30-year-old white man. So maybe there's parts of this I can't relate to. But I think of all the ideas I heard on this album, the one that really struck with me the heaviest was just this idea that 30-year-olds don't fight anymore. Because I don't think that's limited to the black communities. I think that they take the fight out of you for everybody. Like, they don't want... Because by the time you're 30, you have wisdom enough to maybe start, like, building collateral or doing something with that knowledge. So if you have the wisdom to make something of your life and to do something dangerous to the, let's call it, I don't know what the fuck, the patriarchy, whatever the fucking evil system that runs shit, and you're 30, you have the means to influence and become a leader. You have that potential within you, usually. But they make sure that by the time you turn 30, you're so stressed, you're so jaded, you're so fucking tired, you're so into your job, your life, nobody fucking fights, man. Like, I'm pretty sure that if shit hit the fan, most of the 30-year-olds I know would just sit there and be like, well, I gotta go to work tomorrow. I'm a more of a revolutionary thinker, and I just know that I wish there were more 30-year-olds who approached life like I did, who still wanted to see change happen and whatnot. And I think that's what inspires me the most about Kendrick, is he's a 30-year-old man, and even with Damn and stuff, he's still fighting. He's still trying to make a difference out there. And I don't know why society's conditioned us to, like, give up on shit by the time we're 30. It's fucking weird. It's something I'm really experiencing now, and I don't understand it. Like, it blows my mind. So hearing Tupac say it back then, it's like, shit, eh? This is some fucking real problem we have going on. Why is nobody at passion? Like, why is it you got, like, such a limited time to have passion, and most of us aren't even in half of a position to do anything with it? It's just so fucked up. Anyway, it's a 5. I've listened to this in full, like, 3 or 4 times. I've listened to... Usually when it's 9 minutes, I cheat and I only listen to it once because it's, like, fucking odd. Like, I didn't listen to J. Cole's credits on Forest Hills Drive multiple times because you just did credits, you know? But this is, like, every time you listen to it, you almost meditate on it like a TED Talk or something, and it's so good. Yeah. So I had to give this track/skit thing a 5, and I was blown away by it. Like, you're blown away by it, closing out this album and stuff. Anyway, so I guess that's it.
Whoop, whoop.
That's the end of To Pimp a Butterfly, this 2-parter we've done. I gave this the highest album grade I've given to any album so far.
This is definitely up there for me.
It's a 4.909
Oh, boy.
on 5. I think very few albums in history will ever be this elaborate, this intricate, this well-layered, well-balanced. This is way better than Damn, in my opinion. It is a truly amazing album capturing a certain emotion at a certain point in time that can be used anthropologically to like just describe the beginnings of like the changing of the tides, you know? Like this is a revolutionary album. This is everything.
Well, I wouldn't say it was the beginnings, but I would definitely say it marks definitely a place in history.
I'd say in this time in the late is the beginnings of a new era of enlightenment. So I wouldn't say that we started fighting racism in the mid 2010s. I would say that the scope of the battle changed. I would
Right.
say that the way things are happening, the tolerance level, 2014 was like a turning point for things. You know, Flint, Michigan, and all of that, like the whole militarization, like all these, you know, things changed.
Yeah.
Like we've changed the pace. And I think that this album is one of those things that can be pointed at to like document just the emotion. And Kendrick's nearly flawless on this project. Like the beats are fucking nearly flawless. Like the level of detail and effort is nearly flawless. There's a couple of stylistic things I'm not 100% on, like mostly because jazz and stuff isn't my favorite. But I understand now why people were like, this is better than Good Kid, Mad City, and why this is better than Damn. It makes sense to me. This is not my favorite Kendrick album because it's fucking good. Like, I think Good Kid is great, but it doesn't make me feel the way this made me feel. I don't know. What did you think?
I mean, yeah, I think this is a great album. Absolutely. It's a whole experience. It feels like a real trip when you listen to it. Like it's a whole emotional things. There's a lot of emotions that are going on, and there's a lot of difficulties that he's dealing with, and that he's trying to relate to and about his community. The flows are great, and I very much enjoyed all of like the jazz inspirations that were coming out of there. You know, great mix, and overall he tells, you know, a message, and there's a story going on. You know, and basically he's saying keep your head up, fight in a positive way, and you know, as a whole people, like do everything, you know, don't forget that you're a part of something bigger than just you. And just love yourself no matter like what crap you hear about yourself, or if there's negative things that are coming towards you about like your skin color, about who you are, about anything. Like just remember to love yourself. That's the most important thing. And I do think that this is definitely kind of like a time capsule of like 2014, of 2015, like of what was going on at the times. And like there is a lot of things that are relevant to like a lot of the issues and a lot of like the things like the news, you know, stories that were going on at the time. You know, the president and, you know, whoever was popular and what was going on. So I gave this album a 4.68. So on 5, so that's like a 93, like 94%. So I mean, it's definitely up there. It's on my like top list of albums probably ever. Yeah, definitely a classic for sure. There's definitely a lot to look into. There's a lot of feeling. There's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of like anger, and like, you know, he's obviously confronting a lot of like, you know, shit that's going on, a lot of boo-boo that's going on in this song. But this album definitely leaves you with a feeling of hope that things will get better and that there will be, you know, better days ahead. And, you know, everybody needs to like make the right step in order to, you know, ensure that peace is, you know, on the forefront.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's the end of this one.
That's it, guys.
Thank you for those of you who watched it all. Special points if you watched both episodes in full. Woot! Let us know just if you would prefer us to stick this all in one giant video moving forward, or if you appreciated us splitting it out. It was a bit of an experiment because we've done some like 3-ish hour ones before, and this one was looking like it was going to break 3 hours, all things considered. So let us know your thoughts on that. And just in general, what you felt about the album. Because honestly, your opinion is so important. How you feel. Like, I just want to hear your stories, your reactions to it.
Did it affect you in any way?
Yeah.
Let us know.
And as you know, if you saw the beginning of the last one, we respond to a comment every time. It might be yours next time. But definitely want to give a special thank you to our patrons, Linda Williams, Mozart, and Super Old School 1994. They support us directly. And if you want to join the request raffle where you throw in what you want to see done, it's happening next week. Your album might get picked, and then boom, we're actually just reviewing what you want to see for a second. It's a good way to skip the line, you can say. Otherwise, you can get access to content early, etc. And if you don't want to do that, you can always hit the subscribe button and hit the like and show some love like that.
Either way, leave in the comments down below
Yeah.
other, albums that you want us to like check
'Cause
out.
Doing that helps us make the show better. And so, anyway, thank you all for your support and for whatever being here and all that good stuff. It's been a lot for us recording. Woot! Have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.